I was pregnant, so I temporarily handed the corporation over to my husband. Within a month of his taking the helm, my former executive aide told me he'd hired a new executive assistant. That night, while Logan was in the shower, the phone on his nightstand lit up. I picked it up on instinct. A contact labeled Amia had sent a photo. Bunny lingerie, a plunging neckline, fishnet stockings. Underneath she'd typed, I set the phone back without a flicker of expression and gave a soft, contemptuous laugh. Before we continue, please subscribe to this channel and tell us in the comments where you're listening from. By the 3rd month of pregnancy, morning sickness made it hard to concentrate on work. While my parents were off on vacation in the Caribbean, I entrusted Vance Corporation, headquartered in downtown Los Angeles, to my husband for safekeeping and stayed home in Beverly Hills to protect the baby. Babe, I ordered some baby gear. Can you check where they're delivering it? At that, I smiled, took his phone, and opened Amazon. The instant I closed the tracking page, a WhatsApp banner floated across the top. It was late. I worried it might be a corporate emergency. I tapped the notification. Mia, pinned at the top of his chat list, had pinged Logan. Before I could even ask what was up, she fired off another photo. My brows knitted. I glanced toward the bathroom where Logan was humming under the spray, then studied the secretary's offering. In the picture she wore the same bunny ears, the same cleavage-bearing top, the same fishnets, chin tilted heavenward at 75 degrees, her spectacular breasts on full display, eyes glazed with lust. Below it she'd written, "Thanks, boss, for helping me pick the outfit, I love it." I photographed the screen with my own phone, backed out of the chat, marked the message unread, then killed the app. When Logan emerged, spritzed with cologne, I pretended to be absorbed in late-night TV. He ambled over, kissed my cheek, gazed at me with, Go eyes. You're working so hard, sweetheart. Not really. Having this baby is something I wanted for ages. He stretched out on the mattress, thumbing his phone, every few seconds flicking a glance at me. I'm gonna hit the bathroom, he announced, snatching his AirPods. He vanished behind the door. Minutes later, I pressed my ear to it. Sure enough, faint labored breathing leaked through. Back when I was only 1 month along, I'd shifted all operations to my penniless, kept-at-home prince, Zachary. While I'm on maternity leave, watch the numbers. If my husband does anything weird, flag it for me immediately. I'd been off exactly 4 weeks when Zachary texted, Logan replaced your old executive aide. I assumed he simply preferred a new face, no suspicion. Rereading that message now, my forehead creased. When, exactly, had it started? I remembered Logan's sex drive was insatiable. 2 weeks ago he'd come home half drunk, wordlessly plastered himself against me. The reek of cigarettes and whiskey triggered my gag reflex. I shoved him away and barfed in the toilet. I never saw the disgust that twisted his face. Since that night, he'd stopped broaching anything sexual. I'd married him for his face, poor but ambitious, a poster boy for hustle. In a moment of heat, I'd stolen my household register and made him my husband. Who knew the docile facade masked such a libertine? Instead of confronting the infidelity, I told Zachary to start running asset calculations for the divorce settlement. I never expected Mia to stroll right into my house. With no major fires at the corporation these days, Logan left the office early, simmering sour soup for me in the kitchen. Our boy is gonna love this, he chirped, spooning while stealing syrupy pecks. A month ago I'd have melted. Now the spectacle turned my stomach. He carried the tureen over, puckering for reward kisses, imagining every lip he'd tasted. I mimed morning sickness, pushed him aside, and hurried to the toilet. This time I caught the flash of annoyance before he slapped on a caring smile and patted my back. Smile like a dagger. The doorbell rang. He went to answer. I kept sipping at the dining table. Through the doorway I saw him freeze. Minor office thing, he called airily. I'll handle it and send her off. Mia wasn't having it. She sidestepped him and glided in, tight dress, half unbuttoned neckline, scarlet lipstick. You must be the housekeeper, she chirped. A glass of water, please. I rushed here from headquarters in downtown LA and I'm parched. Logan fetched it. Sweetheart, this is the new assistant. She hasn't met you. That's why she's so clumsy. She widened her eyes theatrically. Oh my gosh. You're the missus. I'm so sorry. When I see an apron, I just assume it's the older help. She pivoted toward Logan. Your wife is so sweet. She won't hold it against me, right? When he stayed mute, she reached to clasp my hand. I flung her off. She toppled to the floor like a marionette. I lost my footing. Totally my fault. Please don't blame your wife, Mr. CEO. Her lousy melodrama made me snort. If Mia knows she can't balance, maybe skip the stilettos at work. Last I checked, the dress code calls for a bun, blazer, and flats. When you barged in I thought some street corner salesgirl was hawking miracle serum. Logan, suddenly the disciplinarian, followed my cue. I've told you, look professional. If your spreadsheets weren't flawless, you'd be gone already. Papers delivered. Now get back to the office. As he ushered her out, Mia shot him a syrupy, bedroom-eyed glance that made bile rise in my throat. I'd expected scheming genius. Instead, I got a gold-digging bimbo with too much contour and too little foresight. Rest well, Angel. I'm off to headquarters, Logan cooed, pinching my cheek. The housekeeper cleared the dishes while I drifted into the garden for air. My phone buzzed. Zachary. President Vance. Accounting flagged multiple withdrawals. Logan authorized $50,000 in petty cash. It looks small, but policy says you're notified. I grabbed my keys and sped to Vance Corporation in downtown LA. The instant I parked, I spotted a bleach blonde punk gripping a woman by her hair, dragging her toward the blind corner of the concrete wall. I stepped out to intervene, then recognized the face. The nook was a dead zone beyond CCTV coverage. Mia had shown me no kindness, but I couldn't watch a murder. I opened my camera and started recording, cracking the door an inch. I captured every syllable of the thug's snarl. You promised me you'd make Secretary at Vance. You wired me $5,000. That won't even buy a bottle at the club. Or does that CEO please you better? Am I not man enough anymore? A crisp slap rang out. I'd half expected Mia to fight back. Derek, you've got me wrong. That penny-pinching CEO keeps a flat-chested frump at home. It took me 2 whole weeks to squeeze $5,000 out of him. You'd better not be lying. You know what happens if you are. I told you to go seduce that old tang man, but you insisted on Vance? Damn idiot. Another slap followed, and Mia answered with a shivering little moan of pleasure. She pouted, tracing circles on his chest with one finger. Derek, how could I lie to you? I've been yours forever. You haven't come to me in ages. Are you here today just for the money? A low, nasty chuckle floated over the partition, then the sound of muffled sobbing. I tucked my phone away and stepped out of the car. Maybe they were too lost in their game, or maybe they simply didn't care, but the whimpering didn't stop. As the saying goes, rotten cucumber meets rotten cabbage. I walked into the CEO's office. Logan was at the printer. Honey, what brings you here? He didn't even set the papers down, just came smiling to help me to a chair. If I hadn't uncovered his filthy secrets, I'd still be drowning in his perfect husband act. Why are you printing things? Isn't that the secretary's job? I plucked the documents from his hand and settled behind the desk. Mia had to run to the restroom, and I needed these urgently, so I printed them myself. I just spoke with finance. They say you've embezzled company funds. Surprise flickered across his face. Then he put on the look of a man ready to take his punishment. I was going to tell you, our anniversary's coming up, and I wanted to surprise you. Once you wire my monthly allowance next month, I'll put the money right back. I didn't expect finance to run to you so fast. I burst out laughing. If I hadn't overheard Mia and her thug boyfriend downstairs, I might actually have swallowed that fairy tale. Logan thought I was touched. Don't get too emotional. Babe, I've been here 15 minutes. How long does a bathroom break take? Feeling the awkwardness, he dialed Mia. A breathless voice answered at once. Afraid I'd hear. He whispered for her to hurry back and hung up fast. If she keeps slacking off like this, I'll fire her, he promised, watching my face. Moments later Mia rushed in, cheeks flushed, wheezing in that syrupy tone. Sorry, President. I've been a little constipated lately. I stared at her swollen cheeks and the sticky smear at the corner of her mouth and felt my stomach turn. Looks more like you fell asleep in there. Drool still on your chin. Must be exhausting to nap on the toilet. You sprinted so hard your face is red. Next time, no running in the halls. Go organize those files. As she brushed past me, I kept my voice just low enough. A filthy rag doesn't belong on the dining table. I left without bothering to read her expression. Outside Vance Corp, I ordered the security chief to switch to a safer firm. Ever since that visit, Logan hadn't dared dip into company accounts again. The designer sneakers and fancy fishing rods he once polished daily had vanished. I wasn't worried he'd steal from the house. His monthly allowance could barely keep Mia fed, let alone support her bleach blonde boyfriend. Sure enough, while I was driving to a prenatal checkup at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, I spotted a familiar yellow-haired figure arguing with the guards at Vance's entrance. I pulled over to watch. Derek kicked the marble column in frustration, then phoned someone. Minutes later Mia hurried out, buttons off by one and lipstick smeared clear to her ear. Seeing Derek, she beamed and rushed forward, only to catch a sudden backhand that rocked her head. Even from my car I winced, but she still wore that fawning smile. After a brief exchange she showed him her phone. The instant he saw the payment hit, he grumbled and stalked off. I assumed that once Mia realized Logan was broke she'd drop him. Instead, that very night she she delivered a stumbling drunk Logan to my door. Mrs. Vance. There was a dinner meeting in Santa Monica. The president overdid it. You won't be angry, will you? Logan, half conscious, kept his arm around Mia's waist. The lipstick on his cheek and powder on his collar looked vile. She helped him to the sofa. You've been screwing him this long and still haven't noticed he's penniless? I asked, honestly curious, far from flustered. She smirked. President Vance is one dish I intend to finish. I smiled darkly. She struck a pose, sashayed out with model steps, desperate to flaunt curves Logan's money couldn't buy. Logan handed this month's allowance straight to Mia, so he's stuck eating the employee cafeteria at work. Zachary reported the latest numbers. President Vance. The books are clean. The blonde guy hasn't shown since that one visit 2 weeks ago. Mia's new deals look solid. Several investors have upped their commitments. After the call, I scanned the list. Nearly 10 companies had suddenly raised their stakes. Something stank. Normal wins, I'd believe. Anything Mia touched carried the odor of rot. When I spotted Tang Enterprises on the list, my suspicions hardened. That afternoon, the Tang heiress herself dropped by. Jennifer barged in loaded with shopping bags. Don't move, the housekeeper will take these. Mom hasn't seen you in ages, so she packed every prenatal tonic known to man. With my oldest friend, I didn't bother hedging. Has Mia been to your house? She rolled her eyes. How did you know? That's exactly what I wanted to tell you. It was raining. She showed up to talk a cooperation, in a camisole under a sheer white cover-up. I nearly died. Looked like a back page escort. Mom only let her stay because she's technically your employee. I gave an I told you so grunt. Watch this. I handed her the video on my phone. Holy hell. Total masochist, and hitting on a married man? I followed with the investor list. You thinking what I'm thinking? I nodded. Jennifer demanded every photo and clip, then stormed out in full socialite warrior mode. Soon, the corporation's annual gala recap arrived. Logan had taken Mia's suggestion. This year, besides employees, business partners were invited. Mia claimed it was for the good of the corporation and even set up prize money for staff who performed. I was genuinely curious what stunt Mia would pull. The gala was held at a luxury hotel in Beverly Hills. Down on the floor, dozens of employees grinned while watching familiar faces on stage. Finally, Mia stepped up. She wore a barely there bandeau that only covered her chest, a midriff flashing mini of clean girl a makeup look, and accessories that flashed like strobe lights. Under the spotlights it was almost blinding. When the beat dropped, Mia started to dance, but the fabric was so skimpy that any big move risked a wardrobe malfunction. I thought she'd keep it tame, yet she flung herself harder. I worried the scrap of cloth might peel right off. She let loose, apparently accidentally, a flashing skin, every curve on full display. I assumed everyone else would be as grossed out as I was. Yet when I glanced back, old director Lou beside me had his mouth open, eyes shining. I feared drool might land on my sleeve. After the routine, a pack of male executives rushed to shake her hand and praise her. Several stared hotly at her chest. One geezer even accidentally brushed her butt as he passed. She never flinched, just kept smiling and chatting them up. Her gaze slid over the circle of men, coquettish, brushing hair from her face, until it locked on Logan. Noticing I was watching, she smirked straight at me, challenge blazing. Annoying and absurd. Did she think I was hopelessly in love with that loser? I rolled my eyes. Inside the corporation, Mia had plenty of enemies. Acid gossip trailed her everywhere. The second I see her sex bot act, I want to puke. Word is she blew $1,000 on hair and makeup. I figured all that primping couldn't be for the gala alone. She was cooking up something else. Sure enough, that night Jennifer messaged me. Mia had texted her dad, complete with a photo. She'd angled the shot to showcase every inch, revealing far more than a LinkedIn headshot should. Classic, right? Jennifer texted, adding a snicker emoji. Mom just saw it and is lecturing dad now. Next morning Jennifer dragged me into her car and tailed her mom's Bentley. The route looked familiar, straight to the upscale cafe under the Vance Tower in downtown LA. Eleanor had invited Mia in her husband's name for a private coffee. Eleanor's aura stretched 2 yards, flanked by 2 6'3" 3 bodyguards built like stone. She still dominated. Terrified, Jennifer and I stayed in the car and spied. Moments later Mia arrived. Before entering she whipped out a compact, freshened her lipstick, studied her outfit, popped one more button, then sashayed inside like a runway model. I whispered to Jennifer, your mom isn't going to kill her, right? Jennifer clamped a hand over my mouth. Shut it. Mom's a respectable woman, no bloodshed. We sweated outside for half an hour until Eleanor emerged, face twisted in disgust. The guard sprang to open her door. Only after she'd driven off did Mia stumble out, clutching her stomach, cheek scarlet, a trace of blood at her lip. She never noticed my trembling voice. You you okay? I thought the beating would make Mia lie low for a while. Wishful thinking. Early one morning Eleanor asked me to help pick a bag for Jennifer. Serena, I owe you for tipping Jennifer off about her father. I waved both hands. No need, Eleanor. I'm a victim too. I married the jerk in a moment of insanity. She looked at me kindly. You're still young. I'm old. Otherwise I'd have divorced long ago. A woman has to stay tough. I nodded hard. After we'd chosen the bag we passed the Vance Tower and saw a woman dripping giant logos from head to toe, shrieking at the security chief. Soon a crowd gathered. We got out and heard her demanding Mia. Your Vance place employs a Mia. Drag that little homewrecker down here now. People whispered. It's Brittany. Who's Brittany? Scrap steel millionaire's wife rode up from Texas. Brittany kept screaming. Bring me that tramp Mia. I stepped forward. The security captain greeted me. Mrs. Vance. Brittany grabbed at straws. You're the CEO. Get that witch Mia out here. Curious. I told security to fetch her. Minutes later Mia emerged in another barely there outfit. Hips swaying. That's her. Someone sneered. Look at that slink. Born to seduce. Brittany checked her phone photo, then lunged, seizing Mia's hair and slapping her like a machine. You dare seduce my husband, bitch. Texas-raised Brittany was strong. Mia couldn't fight back. Mia shielded her face and shrieked. Who's your husband? I don't know. Help. Crazy woman trying to kill me. Before a minute passed, a 30-ish man burst through the ring, yanked Brittany off, and smacked her. What are you doing? Making a scene in public? It's disgraceful. Lee, you hit me for this tramp? Brittany howled, collapsing on the pavement. Lee hauled the wailing Brittany toward his car. Shut up. I still have a reputation. Reputation my ass. Your phone's loaded with her nudes. And you claim nothing's going on? Brittany roared. Mia's secrets exposed. She paled. Spotting Eleanor behind me, she trembled, covered her face, and sprinted back into the Vance Tower. Soon the crowd at the doorway melted away. After that incident, rumors about Mia swept through the corporation like a surging tide. At first people only whispered in corners that she wanted to sleep her way to the top. But the stories grew wilder, galloping out of control. One moment someone was swearing she was pregnant with the boss's baby, and had been caught red-handed by his wife. The next, they claimed she already had a 3-year-old kid, as if half the city had personally seen the child. Logan walked in looking drained. He dragged his feet and muttered, I'm home, babe. I hurried over, worry knotting my forehead. What's wrong? Trouble at the corporation? He shook his head wearily. Mia's the target of a lot of gossip. I cracked down on the rumor mill. I gave a thin laugh, eyes narrowing. A clean conscience fears no accusations. If you have to babysit every employee, we might as well close shop. He thought I was jealous and teased. Relax. I just gave them a verbal warning to mind their own business. I snorted, arms folded. A disobedient employee gets fired. End of story. No need for drama. His smile froze. Mia's numbers are solid. She closed several major deals this year. Can't fire her for that. I pretended to ponder, then pulled out my phone and called Zachary right in front of him. Transfer Mia to another division by tomorrow. A secretary is the CEO's public face. Dressing like a showgirl damages your image. Next morning Logan's attitude was ice. He barked, off to work, and stormed out. Before noon Zachary rang. Serena, you'd better come in. Half our partners are threatening to tear up their contracts. I stood immediately and drove to the tower. Logan had barricaded himself in his office, pacing like a caged animal. I stepped into the lounge where 6 society wives waited. I greeted them with a calm nod. I've reviewed the situation en route. Pulling out triggers heavy penalties and stalls our projects. Let's find a solution that protects us all. The women, no one's fools, spoke up one by one. We'll stay, but that secretary has to go. A listed corporation can't keep a girl who lands investments on her back. Davis, an old friend of my parents, added. Serena, our families have partnered with Vance for 10 spotless years. My husband showed me what she sent him. She thrust her phone forward. The others crowded to look. Mine got the same pics. If Brittany hadn't shouted at the gate yesterday, I'd never have checked my husband's phone. I gave my word. Ladies, rest assured, this corporation will purge anyone who climbs by sleaze. I bowed, offered gifts, and granted discounts until they left satisfied. I strode to the lobby and, in front of the entire staff, announced Mia's misconduct and terminated her on the spot. The atrium exploded in chatter. So it was true. Disgusting. Told you she was for sale. Mia flushed crimson, fumbled her belongings into a box, and scurried to HR. By lunchtime the scandal was the main course in every conversation. When Logan came home he slammed his briefcase aside. You just axed my person. Now the whole firm thinks I'm impotent. My temper flared. You call it lunacy. Your Mia used gutter tactics. Do you know how much money we would have lost if I hadn't stepped in? And where were you? Hiding in your office. His face darkened. So I'm incompetent. Fine, run the place yourself. Let's see who you find to replace me. He flung his sleeve like an actor and stormed out. He slipped back near dawn, cleared his throat outside my door to wake me, then snatched his pillow and stalked to the guest room. Without him I slept like a cat in sunlight, stretching luxuriously until 8. The housekeeper murmured that Logan had glowered, changed, and left at dawn. I didn't even lift an eyelid. After a lazy massage, I came home to find the garden blooming redder than ever. Next day he roared up the driveway and slammed the car door. Serena, you installed your brother as CEO without telling me? You said you were done. I found someone who isn't. Since when does a Vance appointment require your blessing? I arched a brow, arms folded, the muscles in his face twitched slightly, and he glared at me with a vicious snarl. Fine, I'm leaving. Don't think you're so special just because you've got a few lousy dollars. With that, he stomped hard and slammed the door shut. I felt dazed, as if today were the first day I'd ever truly seen him. I sank slowly onto the sofa and stared blankly into the distance. Logan didn't come home for an entire week. When he finally reappeared, the familiar, gentle charm was back in place. His eyes were moist, exactly like the first time I'd met him, like a pathetic puppy abandoned by its owner, waiting to be found. Honestly, my heart softened a little, so I told him, go take a shower. When he spoke, his voice oozed surrender and flattery, hinting that I was already 3 months into the pregnancy and we could be intimate again, but all I felt was disgust. He seemed filthy to me. I coldly told him to sleep in the guest room. Maybe he really was exhausted. Not long after I refused him, he fell into a deep sleep in the guest room. I gently stroked my belly, feeling the complicated emotions I couldn't quite cut loose. I had to admit he was handsome otherwise. Why would Mia keep trying to claim him even after discovering he was broke? I had just turned to leave when a muffled groan sounded behind me. Then Logan began to jerk uncontrollably on the bed. At first he looked miserable, frantically tugging off his clothes. Panicked, I flipped on the light, and only then did I see the brutal bruises all over his body and the dense track marks covering his arms. I recoiled in horror, rushed over, and locked him inside the guest room. Our housekeeper, Maria, ran up in a flurry, wringing her hands. Madam, you mustn't do, anything with Logan. She thrust a medical report at me with trembling fingers. I found this in his backpack while washing his clothes. The words HIV positive leapt off the page. A surge of rage and terror swept through me. I crushed the paper into a ball. Without hesitation, I dialed 911, and within minutes the police took Logan away. Tests showed he'd ingested massive quantities of narcotics in the past 4 days, and was indeed infected with HIV. I had barely finished turning him over to the precinct when my older brother called. Vance user data had been dumped on the black market. My heart clenched. I stormed straight to headquarters. The moment I stepped inside, Zachary hurried over. It was only Vance's dummy security files, not the real customer data. He handed me an iPad. On the screen, Mia was sneaking around, using Logan's laptop to copy the database. The two of them really were reckless lovebirds, tangled together, impossible to stomach. I ordered PR to issue a statement immediately, then told legal to draft a lawsuit. When the summons reached Mia, her single thought was, run. I called the police at once to have her arrested, but they told me she'd already fled to Mexico. The officer promised to notify me the instant they had news. When I learned Logan had been sentenced to 3 years in a California state prison and had requested one final meeting before prison, I refused without a second thought. The next day I sent my attorney over with the divorce settlement. When he saw the clause denying him custody and awarding him only $100,000 of community property, his face turned thuggish, eyes blazing. You've got to be kidding me. Vance is a multi-billion-dollar empire and I get 10 grand. You think I'm some stray mutt? Bull. Bring Serena here, I'll talk to her myself. The lawyer relayed my refusal, listed every legal reason he would never receive custody, then informed him that the house and cars we used were registered under my parents' names. Logan froze for a second, then gave a bitter laugh. So none of it was ever real. In the end he signed, as though resigning himself to fate. A month later, I heard about Mia again. I was lounging at home watching the evening news when a breaking story snatched my attention. 24-year-old former executive assistant attempts suicide on rooftop. Let's uncover the mystery. Seconds later, Brittany's coarse, furious voice blasted from the screen. She jabbed a finger at Mia, screaming, "You tramp, you seduced my husband, got him hooked on drugs, and infected both of us with AIDS. How low can you go?" Standing there by the railing, pretending to be pitiful, "Go on, jump if you've got the guts." Police rushed to restrain Brittany and stop the torrent of abuse. Mia forced a few token tears, oblivious to how wretched she now looked, no trace of her former glamour. Her tangled hair framed a face like a mad beggar's. Cops tried to locate relatives to talk her down, but her parents were dead and every aunt or uncle slammed the door. Eventually they fetched Derek. The moment he appeared I spotted the problem. He'd been thin in the parking garage, but now he was sheer bone, obviously high. Derek charged at her like a rabid animal, slapping her face left and right. "Bitch, you stole my stash," and ran. Mia cowered, arms over her head, shrieking, "Stop, Derek, please. I won't do it again." In the scuffle she lost her footing and plunged 18 floors, lifeless on impact. Her eyes stared wide at the sky, petrifying the children nearby. Derek was detained and, for intentional homicide plus dealing and using narcotics while spreading a lethal virus, sentenced to death. Watching from my living room, I exhaled slowly. The wicked truly devour one another. Thanks for listening to today's story. If you liked it, give us a thumbs up and share with friends. We look forward to your comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more tales. See you next time.